Let me try to transition this a little bit, because we are going overtime for this, but Dave Dunn's not able to be here today, so rather than give Mark all the time by himself, maybe we can transition. If you want to come up here, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is kind of a lot of market discussion anyway. So would you guys be okay just staying up here for now?
I was thinking the same thing. You guys are doing great.
I want to say one thing specifically to your point about, we need to go ahead and get into the, let's start getting that money together so that we can actually do the National Marketing Initiative. Julie, can you mention about the fact that when you go down to the Berry Health Symposium, it's really important to have everyone in the United States on the same page, because if we have one person dispute it, we could lose our money,
Yeah.
and so there's the issue.
Not specifically one person, obviously, because it will be put out to a referendum. And you can structure that vote in a few different ways. USDA has some flexibility there, by acreage and individual voters, or some combination, or acreage and growers, or some combination of that. But the main key would be, are all the big players on board? And as I said, we've spoken a little bit of someone like Driscoll, because it's not Driscoll or Nature Right, but Driscoll happens to personally, they have a big grow operation, because the growers will vote on this. The shippers don't vote on this, their growers do. And so that's where the outreach has been to the grower reps, to those guys that are out, and probably in Darren's position, who's doing the procurement, who's out dealing with the farmers out in the field, and so, because they're the ones that are going to carry this message. But so far it's got pretty universal support. So the last key is Driscoll's, and they're primarily in California and Mexico. And so we'll be talking to them down there, trying to get the right people in the room and make sure we're all united.
The risk of this is that, somebody has to put up
It's $100,000.
$100,000, and that would have to be Oregon, because nobody else has any money. And if we put the money up and start into this, and any one entity says, no, I don't want to pay that, let's say there's a group of growers in Mexico, we don't want to pay for that, we've never paid before. They say, no, it's off, and we lose the money, we lose the investment.
So we're trying to make sure that this is very solid before that recommendation goes
So
in.
I'm sure these
The
guys-
strongest support is from Mexico.
Why is it structured like that? Is that just the way the referendum's set
That's
up?
why all USDA.
That's the way they have it set up.
Would Mexico actually be able to vote?
I think
Yes.
so.
Yes, growers. If they're going to pay, they're going to
Yeah,
have to
because
vote
if they're
themselves
paying, they
in.
have a vote.
Have to vote themselves in.
So we have to move ahead cautiously.
Yes. So we're taking it very slowly.
Yeah, I don't want to stop it, but I want to give Mark a chance to.
Yeah, Mark, give us some good news, Mark. You just came back.
He said he's got this solution.
Well, the first thing I wanted to say, one, this is probably one of the most productive conversations I've ever heard on all of these topics. And I think the right things are being discussed, focused on. I think that all the topics that have been brought up, if people can stay focused on those fundamentals and addressing them, we're all collectively on the right track. And then Darren, fantastic presentation. Again, those numbers tell a big story. And I think the data, I think you really should look at data. And there's a lot to learn from that. And then real quick, what's the most important thing? There was a question about what is the price level that maybe sort of works. And as Darren highlighted, we were in a few years there of sort of equilibrium where growers seemed to make money, the market seemed to buy right before 2014, excuse me. So I think that's some indication of where at least equilibrium was. Things do change. That is one of the notes I have. It's important that there isn't an answer. It's a process. And to keep asking all these questions repeatedly. What is the cost of production in Mexico? Well, it is changing. It's less than ours right now, at least for the byproduct, but it will continue to change. At one time, Chile was eating our lunch, and that's not as much of a problem anymore as far as cost of production. They have their own issues. So let's not get fixated on any one question and any one answer. It's just keep talking about all of these issues all the time, and just keep working on it. I just wanted to start there. A couple of, again, just points I wanted to touch on, and it's been brought up already. the fresh component is important. This is a processed Blackberry region competing with Mexico, and they're focused on fresh. I don't know, I'm not a Mexico expert by any means, but they're focused on fresh, and process is a byproduct. And that creates a challenge for competition because we're not really going toe-to-toe on the same level. What they need for a return on their processed fruit is going to be a factor of what they're getting on the fresh side. And I'm not a fresh market expert. I would probably like Darren with that. He's been doing really well. So it's a really complex situation, and I don't think there are any simple answers. To the market conditions, I wish I had better news. It's tough out there right now. There still seems to be ample supply. I know there are organic blackberries in Chile that you can get for under $1 landed. So that just gives you an indication of where the overall blackberry market is right now. I think the consumption is growing along the lines that Darren presented. When we fell down in volume, other regions were able to step up. One of the things about that that's really important is when we either are really expensive or don't have the supply, and Darren, that was another thing that you mentioned, it's not just price, it's being able to deliver. Customers are forced, if they want to keep their product on the shelf, to substitute out. They have to get something else and put it either in the pie, in the smoothie, in the poly bag, because they don't want to take their product off the shelf. Often, they don't want to, they're forced to. Once they do, if it's a formulation, if it's a multiple ingredient smoothie or pie or something, they don't like changing. They'll likely stick with that new formulation unless forced to change again. Or if it's a polybag mix or something like that, and the product continues to sell, and it's a cheaper priced ingredient that they maybe had shunned previously, but it works, they don't switch back. So we can actually destroy Northwest demand by either not supplying or having too high of a price, which again, they'll usually go hand in hand. So it's not as, we don't get the luxury of just returning the next year and saying, I'd like all my business back, please. So that's why those spikes in price or lack of supply can really hurt and have a longer term effect. It's not permanent, but it isn't just an instant recovery. This year I expect, I expect prices to improve from what they were last year. There have been no prices discussed. There's no secret like society out there that's figuring this stuff out. At least if there is, I'm not invited. But I'm not seeing enough heat in the market, enough customer demand to really think that this has a lot of room to run this year. I could be wrong. I was wrong in 2014 on where I thought the prices were going to go. But I wish more people were knocking on the door right now saying, hey, we really need blackberries, we're doing something. And that just wasn't my impression. I mean, people are still continuing to use it. The same users are trucking along and doing their thing. But the supply is increasing, and right now it seems like there's enough supply to meet customer demand. And if that's the case, you just don't see the fundamentals for prices to move quickly in an upward direction. But again, it's difficult to predict those things. And then just one last point, Oregon produces twice as many blueberries as it does blackberries. And Oregon produces like 50% more blueberries than the United States produces blackberries. And the point of that is to highlight how small of a market right now compared to other fruits. We talk about 1.2 billion pounds of strawberries, or it's a really thin market. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but what it means is little disruptions in that supply can have exaggerated effects out in the market. And that actual small size can lead big companies to shy away from including that ingredient in a mix. If they need a big volume, 5 or 10 million pounds with one customer, whether they can actually get it is a big consideration. It's a chicken and egg, right? I mean, if there really is demand that people want to supply. But that's one of the things that makes the blackberry market really hard to predict and follow, and it makes it really volatile. It's that smaller overall volume. One or two big customers making a decision, change, get in, get out, can have really big consequences and unforeseen volatility in some direction.
So then do you think that the supply coming from Mexico and Chile will stabilize the market a little more? Because it'll give them an opportunity to buy blackberries when we're short?
Well, I mean, I guess overall, for blackberries, it's a good thing that that supply is there. The question is, what does the Northwest get as far as a share of that? And so the biggest single thing, I mean, any way we can grow net demand overall that's the best thing. I mean, that's how blueberries, and I'm just bringing that up as a comparison because that's something right here that others out here are familiar with. I mean, blueberries got there not by arguing between the United States and Mexico or the United States and Chile or whatever. I mean, it was just demand. They just created demand. People wanted blueberries, and when people want blueberries, the retailers, everybody else, they want to get them, and then everybody wins. You know, if the growers are getting $1 on blueberries, they're all winning. You know, it doesn't make any difference where they're coming from. Now that's all changing on its own, but demand is a good thing. So any way to create that demand is good.
Do you think a lot of buyers last year overbought just because of price, so that might, in 2017 crop, they would actually probably buy less because they overbought last year? Do you see any trend to that?
I only know our own portfolio. I don't see evidence of that in a significant way. There were some people that I thought bought potentially too much last year, but checking back in with them seems like they're using it. So it's always the potential. You know, we don't supply the whole industry, and I don't have that information. But I haven't heard anything from customers that they just significantly overbought and therefore the demand went down.
And they probably did what Mark said, and that is they reformulated it. So they reformulated to incorporate more blackberries because the price was down, and they'll be shopping to see kind of how they're going to do that for next year. If it was a really good seller in the market, they may put blackberries back in and watch it rise up and feel okay about it until it spikes too high. That's why that consistency is good for the market.
I would just comment too, I did talk to Dave yesterday, and he just wanted me to, I mean, his take from his conversations that he had down there that day after was that the supply chain seems to be okay. The movement seems to be went okay. Pricing's still bad, but he feels like we're going to be okay going into the season as far as customers and inventory.
You know, we're in the middle of this kind of variety shift. So with our growers, are we seeing, you know, people with a lot of bearings in the ground being losers in this market and people going into the thornless being winners? Or are you having buyers who are requesting certain varieties or thornless or thorny? How's that whole thing breaking down with buyers?
Darren, anything from Dave?
Not specifically, no. Yeah, I'll defer to you, Mark, on that.
So everybody at our level is not exactly on the same page on this, but there are, you know, our position and that of others is that we can't get over to thornless fast enough. That doesn't mean the demand for Marion's going away, but thorns are a problem still. Last time I was up here, it was probably a year ago, I said the same thing. I think there's a division of opinion on how quickly the changeover needs to happen. But I just know from who we met with, you know, who our customer base is, needing a variety that didn't have thorns was a topic that was brought up to us on numerous occasions. So, I mean, if you read the headlines on food safety, it's usually around things like, you know, microbiological contamination, but food safety is also foreign material. And man, when a customer sends a picture of a bramble, In fact, we had a customer say it looked like a barbaric weapon. You know, it doesn't leave, you can't say much. You can't look at that picture and say, no, that's okay. You know, a kid pulled that out of their mouth, that's okay. You have no position as a processor at that point to, you know, just apologize and try to get it all out next time, which is really hard to do. So,
But you guys are in the position of having a lot of thorny berries come in and not having a large supply of oranges yet. So that's got to be a very difficult market dynamic.
I think you understand very well.
Yeah.
I do have one question that I would like to ask the growers in the room. This last year, the plant sales statistics that came out, Black Diamond is 53.5% of total sales, Columbia Star is only 8.5%. Why is it that you're not planting Columbia Star? Is anybody here that planted last year? And nobody? Did you plant Black Diamond or what'd you plant?
We planted half Black Diamond and half the Thornless Mary.
And why not Columbia Star? Just
Our
curious.
processor preferred Black Diamond
Really?
and Thornless Mary at this stage. That was probably the basic. I mean, I think Columbia Star is a great berry, so I have nothing against that.
I actually have a question. For people who have had any experience with Columbia Star, what is it? How do you feel about it?
I think
Anyone?
it's great. I mean, the machine fits beautifully.
Yeah.
We went over 8 ton last year. That's respectable yield. The fruit is awesome. I mean, it looks fantastic. It tastes really good.
It's a real firm berry.
We love it in the facility, so to me, it's more about what the growers think.
There's not as much data out there on Columbia Star as there is on Black Diamond. So when guys are looking at Black Diamond, it's consistently produced over different areas. And so Columbia Star has always been, well, good quality, but we're not sure how it's going to yield. Now, if he's getting 8 tons, some of those yields is going to compete with Black Diamond, but bottom line is cost production. So if you don't want something that produces like Marion, because then you're going to be in the same boat. You can get better cold hardness, but you're still going to have to fight those low years where you're not going to get the production to keep your costs down.
Probably the only downside I can see between the two, and we've got both. The training costs on Columbia Star is a little higher because they have more canes. You know, Black Diamond will get 3 or 4 canes on bush, Columbia Star will get 10. So it just takes a little longer for the guys to get them up and wrap them. And then, of course, being thornless and Columbia Star is a little more wispy, you have a tendency to blow back off the wire, back onto the ground, especially if you don't wrap them tight. And so you have a little more cost, but not, you know, a couple $100 an acre at the end of the year, maybe, not a huge amount. Production's good, the fruit is awesome. You know, it doesn't mold. I was afraid of mold, big leaves, you know, thick canopy. We throw them over, we've got a huge row. So far, no mold issues at all. And I think that might be partially because the berry is such a thick-skinned, firm berry. I just don't think it molds like the Black Diamond. And we have had issues with mold and Black Diamond.
Do either of them handle wet spots or swells better?
The Black Diamond don't like wet feet. I guarantee you that. Columbia Stars, we don't have them in a piece of ground that is wet, so I guess I can't answer.
Is your training, was that new over old, or was that just cut down?
No, I just throw them.
From, so you got a lot of canopy in there.
Yep. Yes, we do.
So is there going to be a price differential between by variety?
I don't know at this point. I really don't. I don't know.
How much does flavor and fruit quality, well, I believe it in flavor really matter? Because you mentioned kind of just the fact that, you know, so long as it's good yielding berry, it's fine, but it seems like if you're talking about Tupi coming out of Mexico, which is a really awful berry to taste. But that's still competing with, our varieties here, which are, certainly a lot better in flavor than, anything coming out of Mexico. Is flavor of the berries is not really matter.
I think it matters, but it doesn't matter as much as we probably focused on in the past, anymore. We certainly, Marionberry ruled the world because of flavor, out of the Northwest. There's no doubt about that for a long time. But with the competition, with what we see, with the competition in other regions offering cheaper fruit, people tried it, they introduced it, it worked. So, I think Black Diamond, Columbia Star, Cottage tastes good. Anything in that range, I think is going to be acceptable to most customers. There are still customers, and specifically in formulation, that want Marion for the flavor, but a lot of that ends up being puree anyway, not all. And that's still Marion's still recognized for the flavor, there's no doubt, and it's used for that purpose. But in your average polybag pack, and I'm not talking about a Northwest company's name brand, we're proud of ourselves. I'm just talking about Walmart, blowing it out the door, moving volume. The flavor is not as important as we probably focused on in the past, as long as it's not really bad. That's the other things. I think this should be pretty evident. But the people in this room and your peers, you're trying to feed all of North America and maybe even other parts of the world with the supply. Right? This isn't all eaten locally, in a boutique sort of setting where everybody sits down and enjoys, a couple of berries and reminisces on the flavor. You guys are in the business of want to do volume. The processors are doing volume and really, saturating North America and beyond with just blackberries, Marionberries. So that high production, pump it out, it's not glamorous, but that's the business we're all in, whether we're telling ourselves that or not. Farm stand and local dining aside, you're trying to feed a big population base across a large region. And we all understand supply and demand and what cost does, price point does in that.
So for our reading program, should we go more for volume or should we go more for the quality of a black diamond? We're looking at Black Diamond, which is not as good for the processing line, or Columbia Star. It's kind of like...
Depends what market you're going after. Are you going to go after the boutique market, the medium range market, or the Walmart?
For a lower cost of production per pound, it seems like at this point it would look like Black Diamond.
I think a farmer needs to work with their processor to figure out what their customer base is and what does their customer need. Always remember, it's customer focused here. So you got to figure out who you're going to sell to.
Well, the two of you are speaking different languages to a certain
I think we're
extent.
saying
I
the
think you're
same
both
thing.
right,
Well,
but
yeah,
you're talking feeding a large commodity type market of Walmart or polybags in general. Then we want to have low cost of production so we can keep our prices low.
I'm going to say something here. I actually work with Winco, and I work with a little gift shop. I do all of those different customers. That's why I'm suggesting you talk to your processor and find out who their customer is. I think it's very customer specific. And so, and processors have different customers. Yes, sometimes they're all going after the same big guy, but not every time are they all going after the same guy. And they know who they have. And if they don't know who they have yet and they're still working through it, they may be going for that Walmart or the person who wants that type of quality. And that is a different berry than a Marion. So, I think we're saying the same thing. There's just a lot of different types of customers out there.
There's different cars at different price points, right?
Yep.
And not everything's for everyone. There's different customer needs and wants. And it could be more.
Well, actually, I think you guys might comment, Columbia Star has the potential for a fresh market too, because it's permanent. It seems like you've also got that option.